volunteers and donors that make Simcoe Hall possible, and boy, is it ever necessary. Après 8 ans de Justin Trudeau, le coût de tout augmente. Et avec la rentrée scolaire, la fourniture scolaire augmente en prix de façon record. Il y a plus de familles en besoin, en situation de besoin que jamais dans l'histoire du pays. Je viens de parler à Tiffany qui m'a dit que dans un jour, mardi, il y avait 110 personnes qui avaient besoin d'aide avec de leur banque alimentaire. Il y a une augmentation de 200% de la demande ici à Simcoe Hall en ce qui concerne leur banque alimentaire. En fait, certaines journées, ils n'en ont plus. Il n'y a plus de nourriture parce que les gens ont moins d'argent pour donner et supporter des autres et il y a plus de personnes en besoin. Et Justin Trudeau, il aggrave la situation qu'il a causée. C'est lui, avec ses 500 milliards de dollars de déficit inflationniste, qui a gonflé les prix qu'on paie et l'intérêt sur nos dettes. Sa taxe carbone augmente non pas seulement l'essence et diesel, mais tout ce qui est transporté. Ces produits-là doivent être transportés. Donc, ça vient d'un camion. Un camion emmène ses trucks au magasin et ici. Donc, ça coûte plus cher de transporter les biens qu'on achète à cause de la taxe carbone que Justin Trudeau veut augmenter. Ici, à Ontario, à 61 sous le litre. Au Québec, à 20 sous le litre. Avec l'appui du Bloc, Justin Trudeau veut augmenter le prix de l'essence pour les Québécois de 20 sous le litre. M. Trudeau, M. Blanchette, les Québécois ne peuvent plus payer vos factures. Arrêtez avec vos taxes. Pierre Poilievre va annuler la taxe carbone et éliminer les déficits inflationnistes pour amener des prix plus bas, surtout pour nos enfants, surtout pour la rentrée scolaire, pour la nourriture et pour les autres besoins. C'est ça le gros bon sens. Thank you very much, Tiffany, for all you're doing. Thank you to your volunteers and your donors who have come to the rescue once again to the many families in need. I was really troubled to hear how bad things have gotten. You were telling me earlier that this year the demand is up by over 200% compared to 3 years ago. On Tuesday, you had 110 people in one day come in to use the food bank. And year after year, it gets more and more difficult to collect donations because, of course, people have less left to give. How many families are going to come and get a backpack full of school supplies this year?
We've registered 1,500 families, or 1,500 children in the Durham region. Last year was under 900.
Wow. Yeah. So it's up to 1,500 from 900.
Yeah, and we
wow. So as you can see, that's an increase of well over 50% in 1 year, the number of kids that need help with back-to-school supplies. And if you think this is a one-off anecdote after 8 years of Trudeau, you'd be wrong. Let me quote some of the facts. According to the Retail Council, stationery is the #1 spending category for back-to-school. And according to Stats Can, stationery prices are up 49% since Trudeau took office. 36% since 2020 and 11% since 2022. Prices for school textbooks and supplies were up 3% year over year. Reading material textbooks up 32% since Trudeau took office 8 years ago and 11% over the last 3 years. Quoting from Stats Can, for parents providing after-school activities to their children, prices for other lessons, courses, and educational services such as music or martial arts were up 5.6% year over year. For students who rely on city bus and subway transportation, prices up 4.1% and 12% in Quebec. The biggest price shock, perhaps, will be how they're paying for a lunchbox. Prices for bread, rolls, buns were up 8.1%. higher this July compared to 12 months ago. Cookies and crackers up 12.4%. Students looking for to win some favor with the teacher by buying them an apple will be shocked to learn that apples cost 8% more. A study by Deloitte Consulting found that the average bill for back-to-school shopping came to $700 a year just for back-to-school per student. This is insane. $700 pour chaque élève pour les fournitures scolaires. $700. C'est fou, mais c'est la vie après 8 ans des taxes et déficits inflationnistes de Justin Trudeau. A survey found that shoppers plan to spend over $500 on back-to-school shopping. Canadians are turning to food banks and charities like the one we have here today. The Owen Hart Foundation in Alberta has seen an almost double demand for its annual backpack and school supply giveaway this year. Hart saw the demand jump by 76%. Donations, according to CBC, even CBC has noticed, donations have slowed just because everyone's really struggling with our weak economy, and so it is difficult to get sponsors to commit. We could do thousands of backpacks because there is just such a need. And I quote, Neighbors in Need in Newfoundland, which helps those struggling to afford food and other essentials, says that this year more than 260 people have registered, with at least another 200 on a wait list. St. John's Food Bank, Bridges to Hope, said that the need for back-to-school program has increased significantly in recent years. This year, 350 spots were filled immediately, and more than 100 children were put on wait lists before it had to be closed as well. What happened to those 100 kids? They were put on a wait list. The wait list was closed. What are they doing? Back to school the day after Labor Day, they're going to show up without a backpack, without pencils. What are they going to do? As inflation continues to pressure the cost of just about everything, Canadians across the country are preparing for back-to-school season by turning to second-hand options as a way to save money. That's a quote from CBC. 27% of students say they will spend less on school supplies this year compared with previous years due to inflation, while 20% said they had plans to purchase or buy back-to-school items second-hand. That was from CBC. Globe and Mail reports, a survey by the Retail Council of Canada found that about 74% of back-to-school shoppers plan to spend more than $50 more this year. Experts expect that more shoppers are going to look for savings because they have no other choice, reports the Globe and Mail. So this is life for our children after 8 years of Justin Trudeau. His decisions have had consequences. That money that he said was free, well, it's not free, it turns out. It all came with a cost. And so, as Parliament gets its back-to-school moment coming, I have a little donation to make to the Prime Minister. It is a calculator to help him calculate the cost he is imposing because of his inflationary deficits and carbon taxes. The more he spends, the more things cost. It is time that Justin Trudeau got a calculator and found out how to work it, because right now, he's just not worth the cost. You know, the good news is that Canada was not like this before Justin Trudeau, and it won't be like this after he's gone. We're going to turn the hurt that he's caused into the hope Canadians need. A Poilievre government will axe the carbon tax, cap spending, and cut waste to eliminate inflationary deficits and bring down interest rates. We'll bring home more powerful paychecks with lower income taxes that reward hard work, and by removing gatekeepers so our brilliant immigrants can get jobs in their professions, working as doctors and nurses, serving our patients. We're going to bring homes you can afford by incentivizing the cities to speed up and lower the cost of building permits and free up land. We'll do this by requiring every big city permit 15% more building per year or lose federal grants, but those that beat that target will get a building bonus. We'll require every federally funded transit station be pre-permitted for high-density sky rises so that our seniors and students can live right next to the bus or train. We'll sell off 6,000 buildings and thousands of acres of federal land so that we can build homes. After 8 years of Trudeau, rent has doubled, mortgage payments have doubled, down payments have doubled. We're going to bring homes you can afford by building those homes. More homes, less bureaucracy. We're going to bring home safe streets with jail and not bail for repeat violent offenders, and by providing treatment and not more drugs to those afflicted by addiction. This is common sense. The common sense of the common people, united for our common home. Your home, my home, our home. Let's bring it home. Thank you very much. Thank you. And before I take questions, I just want to acknowledge Phil Lawrence, our Shadow Minister for Finance with a focus on tax reform. We have here Dr. Colin Carey, Member of Parliament for Oshawa. And do we have any other members here? Oh, Ryan's here. Ryan is our Shadow Minister responsible for competition and working to bring down cell phone and other costs so that your dollar goes further. So thank you very much to our brilliant common sense MPs here working for the community. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's Catherine with Global News. So the Bank of Canada has said increased immigration has helped keep house prices and rents elevated. The Housing Minister has floated the idea of a cap on international student visas to alleviate that pressure. Would you support that?
Well, first of all, I think Sean Fraser owes Canadians an apology. He was the immigration minister that caused total chaos and inhumanity in our international student program. He was the one that forced those students into desperation, allowed them to be defrauded by fake programs and phony admission letters. He was the one, by his own admission, that signed off on visas for students to come here when there were 5 students for every unit of housing at colleges. Those are by his own admission. Over the last few weeks, we've seen an incredible phenomenon where the current immigration minister has been viciously attacking the record of his immediate Liberal predecessor, Sean Fraser. Sean Fraser also put our refugees under bridges, on streets, and in desperate circumstances. He is the worst immigration minister in my lifetime. And what is his punishment? He's been promoted to housing minister. How are we ever going to fix housing with such an incompetent minister as Sean Fraser? But that's 8 years of Justin Trudeau. When I'm Prime Minister, we will fix what Trudeau broke in the international student program to ensure that when students arrive, they have homes, jobs, health care, and we will make sure that the programs for which they register are real, valid educational programs with true admission letters. We will audit those applications to make sure that large-scale frauds are not perpetrated against the students. The numbers of students will be determined by the availability of spaces at universities and homes for those students. That is a common sense approach that always flourished and made our international student program the best in the world before Trudeau arrived. We're going to get back to that common sense approach when I'm Prime Minister.
Hello.
Hi.
Katie Damon with CTV News. The federal government is seriously considering options to build a brand new official residence for the Prime Minister. What do you think of this move, and what would you do with the residence if you become Prime Minister?
Well, I think that this will be, of my list of priorities, this will probably be the last. We don't need a new home for the Prime Minister. We need a new home for working class Canadians. Yeah. I mean, the Prime Minister has had one mansion where his food is cooked, another mansion where he lives, a third mansion on a lake, And that wasn't enough for him, so he built a second lakefront mansion with our money at Harrington Lake. He's been so focused on building mansions for himself that he's forgotten to get homes built for hardworking Canadians. My focus is on housing Canadians, not housing the Prime Minister. Thank you.
Hi, Katie Newman for CBC News. So as the Leader of the Opposition, you are currently living in a taxpayer-funded home. So what should the accommodations for the Prime Minister be?
I think they should be reasonable and practical to provide for the ability to receive dignitaries, but beyond that, and most important of all, to have security. I think we have a lot of other public places where we can welcome and greet people for receptions and other events that we don't need a residence that does that, like, for example, they have in the White House. Canada's parliamentary precinct has a whole series of special halls that are easy to secure, which are already built and are perfectly respectable. So I think it should just be a very basic, secure place where a Prime Minister can live safely at a reasonable cost to taxpayers.
And could you repeat that in French, please?
Merci beaucoup. Oh, je pense que le Premier ministre m'appelle. The Prime Minister is calling me right now. He's hear a phone ringing. Je crois qu'il devrait y avoir une résidence qui est sécuritaire pour la famille du Premier ministre, mais qui n'est pas nécessairement chère pour les contribuables. Ce n'est pas nécessaire d'avoir des grands palais pour des réceptions. On a déjà beaucoup d'édifices autour de la colline parlementaire où on peut tenir des événements pour des présidents et premiers ministres étrangers qui viennent visiter. Donc, on n'a pas besoin de dépenser des énormes sommes. Le Premier ministre Justin Trudeau a 4 énormes maisons déjà. Il y a la maison où on cuit ses nourritures, la maison où il vit. Il y a un chalet à côté de lac Harrington. Et il a bâti un autre grand château, un grand chalet sur le lac. Ça, ce n'est pas nécessaire. Donc, il ne faut pas dépenser des énormes sommes pour bâtir un énorme palais pour les premiers ministres présents ou futurs. Merci. All right.
And the Conservative Policy Convention will consider a resolution next week to repeal the Emergencies Act, which was used to suppress the Ottawa convoy. Do you support that proposal?
So I'm not going to comment on any of the resolutions until members have had a chance to vote on them, because that would be undue interference in their work. I respect the grassroots of the Conservative Party, and I know that they will do careful consideration of policy proposals, and will, when they pass or reject those proposals, I'll give their decisions careful consideration in putting together my election platform. Je ne vais pas commenter des résolutions des membres du Parti conservateur avant qu'ils soient votés. Je pense que nos membres devraient avoir l'occasion d'offrir leur input sans que j'impose mon opinion. Donc, après le Congrès, je vais revoir toutes les résolutions. Je vais m'y informer et je vais prendre en considération ces opinions lorsque je bâtis le plateforme électorale du Parti conservateur.
Alistair McNamara, Durham Radio News. The other day, members of Unifor voted in favor of a strike mandate at a trio of major automakers. GM, of course, big presence here in Oshawa. I'm just wondering if you might have any thoughts on the matter as it pertains to workers in Durham region.
Well, I have to say, I feel for these workers. I understand where they're coming from. They're facing, after 8 years of Trudeau, double the rent, double the mortgage payments, 20% increase in food prices in just 2 years, and now he wants to hit them with a 61-cent a liter carbon tax. I worry about what's going to happen to those families, and I'm sure they do too, and that's why so many unionized workers have been forced to go on strike over the last 3 months. to respond to just inflation. The Prime Minister has made everything cost more, and now workers are having to fight for raises that keep up with these exorbitant, out-of-control costs. One way to have less strikes, have less inflation, and I'll do that by capping spending, cutting waste, balancing the budget to bring down inflation and interest rates, by eliminating the carbon tax to lower the cost of gas, heat, and everything that's shipped to you. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes it.
All right, thank you very much. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Thanks, everyone. Great to be with you.